What's going on, Nerd Squad, and welcome back.
Superheroes are great at fighting. I mean, they kind of have to be, or else they're not really that super.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's also fun to watch them go toe-to-toe with their equal opposites. It makes for a pretty exciting time, and we love seeing an underdog triumph over the forces of evil.
But sometimes, quips and punches aren't enough to do the trick, and we find our main man in spandex defeated. And it happens quite often in comic books, and of course in movies.
Of course. So, here to count down 10 of our favorite superhero defeats, I'm Taylor McWatters.
And I'm Patty D. Let's dive right in. Number 10. Batman gets punched out by Hal Jordan. Batman had a hard time getting along with the Green Lantern after his murderous incarnation as Parallax. The tension between these two came to a head in Green Lantern Rebirth, when Hal decides he's pretty much fed up with Batman's paranoia and he just socks him one. A real mean right hook right to the jaw. Batman drops from the single blow unconscious. Guy Gardner happens to be nearby, who Batman basically did the same thing to in Justice League number 5. Just a one shot, boom. He's pretty happy to see Batman get what's been coming to him. It's certainly not Batman's worst defeat by a pretty wide margin, but it's definitely a serious blow to Batman's pride as well as his face, since he's basically just been knocked out with a single punch from a regular human. Then again, Batman doesn't exactly have like superpowered endurance or anything, so it does make sense that he could be brought down in one punch. What really gets me going is if Batman was so paranoid, why didn't he see this punch coming? World's greatest detective gets blindsided?
And before we continue, guys, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up on our video because it goes a long way for us here at the studio. And if you don't do it, we're going to be really sad for like an entire year, so. Number 9, Jason Todd. A Death in the Family is a 4-part storyline written by Jim Starlin and published in 1988, and it's one of the biggest DC moments ever in comic history. This was a huge moment in the Bat story because we see the Joker beat the second coming of Robin, Jason Todd, and when I say he beats him, I mean he beats him like to death. Yeah, he gets a crowbar and then a bomb just to end it all off. And it's more than just a beating that's so horrible. The Joker also used Jason's birth mother. Yeah, he blackmailed her in order to get closer to Jason. And then of course the Joker killed her too. So this is a double whammy. All the defeats, all the feels, our hearts. And what's even crazier about this whole thing is that it was up to the fans to decide his fate. Yeah, this actually came to life thanks to the producers allowing the readers to decide what happens next. There was a 36-hour period with a number you could call and vote for if you wanted the Joker to kill Robin or not. And it was pretty close apparently, something like 72 votes a difference, which is wild. Some fans even admitted to calling in more than once. You know, they just really wanted him out of there, eh? And this was of course a blessing in disguise because it brought us the glorious Red Hood, who we can't help but love.
Number 8, Spider-Man vs. Mysterio. When Mysterio first appeared way back in 1964, he gave Spidey a real run for his money. In this story, reports of Spider-Man robbing different stores in the night are hitting the news. Pete becomes pretty worried and thinks maybe he's going crazy, committing crimes in his sleep or something. He even considers visiting a psychiatrist at one point, but decides against it, fearing that he might ruin his secret identity. Later, a costumed being calling himself Mysterio appears at the Daily Bugle and tells Jameson that he's a crime fighter and he's here to bring Spider-Man to justice. He vanishes in a puff of smoke, leaving a note telling JJ to publish a challenge for Spider-Man to meet Mysterio on the Brooklyn Bridge for a showdown. The battle that follows is a particularly bitter defeat for Spidey, as Mysterio uses his special effects expertise to counteract Spider-Man's webbing, causing it to melt, and messes with his spider sense using a powerful mist that deadens the senses and reduces Spider-Man's reactions. Spidey is also blinded by the mist. Afterwards, Mysterio has a great photo op with Jameson, being hailed as a hero for taking on the menace of Spider-Man. Spidey uses this opportunity to hit Mysterio with a spider tracer and follows him back to his base to learn the truth behind Mysterio's evil ways to eventually later defeat him.
Number 7, Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. Directed by, of course, Christopher Nolan, who had done the previous 2 installments, comes a pretty epic conclusion to the hit trilogy. Released in 2012, The Dark Knight Rises, as you guessed from the title alone, is about Batman rising up. But from where and why? Well, how about a broken back thanks to Bane, for starters? Yeah, this is 8 years after the Joker had a run-in with Gotham City. So now Batman has to return to take down Tom Hardy as he mumbles and frowns aggressively around town. So after Catwoman walked him into a 1v1 in the tunnels of Gotham, we get one of my favorite fight scenes from any superhero movie ever. And what I love about this scene the most is that there's no music the entire time. All you hear is Batman struggling to try and make a dent on this guy. And it makes it more realistic. There's no heroic music above that distracts you, it's just stressful. It's so stressful. I mean, you can see Bruce become more and more exhausted by the minute. Leaves you out of breath almost. And it all comes to a screeching halt when Bane picks up Bruce for one last blow, right to the spinal cord.
Spirit! Oh, your money!
Now, I know people give this movie a hard time, but seeing Batman get his ass kicked like this reminded me that it's not always the hero that gets the last punch.
Because they belong to me.
Number 6. Wolverine, crushed by the Punisher. The Punisher and Wolverine are a couple of rusty nails, real tough guys who don't take any guff and ask questions after the whooping is done. As such, when these guys go toe-to-toe in Punisher number 17 in 2001, they get straight to wrecking each other after a very short truce. They're both on the hunt for a guy who's been killing mobsters and leaving severed legs behind. Wolverine suspects the Punisher, and of course Punisher's prime suspect is Wolverine. These two guys have a pretty nasty showdown that does not end well for old Wolverine. Punisher literally shoots Logan's face off and then blasts him right between the legs with a machine gun. Wolverine is doubled over in pain on the ground, as you can imagine, and Punisher, realizing he can't really stop Wolverine just by hurting him, crushes Wolverine underneath a steamroller and parks it on Logan's head with just his hands sticking out. Some very effective work by the Punisher and a seriously humiliating defeat for Wolverine.
And number 5, Spider-Man and Craven. We take a look now at Craven's Last Hunt, published in 1987, and it has quite an interesting illustration on the front page. We see a dark suit Spider-Man crawling out of a grave covered in mud, and then in the background we read some alarming words on the tombstone, and it says, "Here lies Spider-Man." Huh, what? Okay, so this 5-part series, of course, as you would guess, centers around the death of Spider-Man in a way. But how does such a thing happen to old Sticky Pete? Well, Craven is frustrated after his failed attempts to catch Spider-Man, so he comes up with this all-new plan that involves him shooting Spider-Man. So Craven buries him, and even worse, he takes a Spider-Man suit and then takes his place in the world. So not only do you get defeated, but also replaced, adding insult to injury, literally. So then the new Spider-Man, our boy Craven, now he roams in New York and brutally attacks criminals, including a group that was actually assaulting Mary Jane. So then 2 weeks later, Peter wakes up from the effects of the tranquilizer that Craven used, and he digs himself out to freedom. Now, I've woken up late, maybe I've missed a class or two before, but I mean this is just a whole nother level of stress. So when Spider-Man confronts Craven, Craven gets defensive. He's like, "Oh, no, buddy, I'm the real deal now, I'm doing this. You go back to your little hole. I'm doing the Spider-Man thing now, right? Get out of here, bucko." And then Craven releases Vermin, who is just, a bundle of joy to hang out with. He attacks Peter thinking he was the same Spider-Man that had given him a beatdown before. And then Peter has to convince Vermin to cool our jets. Vermin is actually about to kill Peter until Craven intervenes. I mean, talk about a messy 2 weeks, holy shit.
Number 4. Cyclops Infinity War. Some of the heroes on this list got it pretty rough sometimes, and this defeat of Cyclops during the final battles in Infinity War is especially brutal. After Thanos had obtained the Infinity Gauntlet and performed his epic universe-altering snap, the remaining superheroes head off into space to battle against the Mad Titan. A lot of superheroes die, a testament to Thanos' epic power, but Cyclops suffers one of the worst deaths imaginable. Just as Cyclops uses one of his signature optic blasts, Thanos conjures an airtight, unbreakable cube around Cyclops' head, and, unable to use his blasts to free himself, Cyclops falls to the ground, suffocating in the cube. Captain America can't even break the cube open with a smash from his shield. A lot of the heroes who died in this event got it pretty quick. Even Cap is knocked out quickly with an epic backhand from Thanos that breaks his neck. This is a really tragic moment for all, but a super devastating defeat for Cyclops. I'm not even that big of a Cyclops fan, but the way this thing unfolded really made me feel for the guy.
Number 3, Magneto and Wolverine. Look, I bite my nails, alright, a lot. I can't even pull a hangnail some days, okay? I grab it, I count myself down, and then last minute I just bail. It's too spicy. I don't have enough willpower to do it. Now, I couldn't even imagine this next one, okay? I couldn't imagine if all of my bones got ripped out of my body at the same time. And that's exactly what happens to Wolverine when Magneto has had enough of his nonsense. So this all takes place during the Fatal Attractions event. Wolverine doesn't even have a chance to scream, apparently. The adamantium that bonded to his bones erupted outward like water bursting through a dam. That's how they put it. Ugh. And he's still breathing when this happens. I mean, if this isn't one of the worst things to go through, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, thankfully Xavier wiped Magneto's memory and then Wolverine was out of commission for a while. I mean, he had metal spikes sticking out of his body, so I don't think he's getting any grocery shopping done anytime soon.
Number 2, Superman gets beat by Alfred. Injustice, Gods Among Us had some pretty epic moments, like this crazy showdown between Batman and Superman that ends in a broken back for Batman. In this story, we visit an alternate DC universe in which Superman has gone mad and takes over the world as a dictator after witnessing the destruction of Metropolis by the Joker and accidentally killing his pregnant wife. It's enough to drive anyone mad, really. Batman tries to stop Superman, eventually forming a rebellion against Superman's regime. Both are joined on either side by other heroes who share their feelings, and a superhero war rages on. Sometime after poor Batman has his back destroyed, Superman is confronted by Alfred, who has recently taken one of the superpowered pills Lex Luthor invented for Superman to use to create a superpowered army. What follows is an epic and totally unexpected beatdown as Alfred gets revenge for Batman, laying some serious blows on Superman with no remorse. Alfred cares deeply for Batman, and he really lets it show here, hammering Superman's head into the ground.
And number 1, Vision, Infinity War. Okay, so Patty D mentioned earlier a pretty brutal death from the Infinity War comic, but if you're not aware of the comic, maybe you'll remember this one from the movie. So the Russo brothers made what's arguably the best superhero film to date. I mean, all of these characters who led their own franchise crammed into one single movie. I'm honestly impressed by how smoothly that movie runs. So we see Thanos as he walks his way through the universe collecting the cosmic Infinity Stones. First he decimates Xandar for the Power Stone, and then gives Loki the old Chokey for the Space Stone, even popping some blood vessels in his face at the same time. He momentarily turns Drax and Mantis into silly string and flesh cubes, and he throws Gamora off of a cliff for the Soul Stone and stabs Iron Man, forcing Strange to hand over the Time Stone. But they save the best and most heartbreaking for last, the Mind Stone. The stone that is Vision. So after a last effort attempt of removing the stone in Wakanda, his lover, Wanda, Scarlet Witch, is forced to destroy it in order for Thanos not to get it. So while holding back Thanos this entire time, she has to kill her lover. She does so successfully, and we felt the pain. The theater sat silent as we tried to comprehend that this actually just happened. But then Thanos uses the most recent installment on his glizzy gauntlet, the Time Stone. He then brings Vision back to life in front of Wanda, grabs him by his neck as well, and then pulls the stone out, leaving Vision's lifeless and colorless body to plop on the ground. And what's crazy about this is that he wasn't even using another Infinity Stone to pull that out. He just digs through vibranium with raw strength and he plucks it out, again, like a hangnail. Crazy.
So, Nerd Squad, who do you think got it the worst? Can you think of an epic superhero defeat that didn't make the cut?
Yeah, let us know in the comments down below, and then we'll feature your answers in a future video, perhaps.
Oh, exciting for these guys. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'm Patty D.
And I'm Taylor McWatters. Oh shit. And I'm Taylor McWatters, and we'll see you in the next video.